Hey, Gotchabagoose. Hello. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm very happy to see that we have our dear buddy, the recent grad, present at this particular moment. Hello, Penzilla. You rock. I hope you're having an excellent rest from all of your endeavors. I guess apologies if anyone actually missed me last weekend, but it was a little bit busier than normal. Anyway, had some family responsibilities on tap that I needed to take care of, which was primarily watching after the younger brother who is challenged and has to be taken out for a little family outing sometimes when he needs it. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad weekend. I got 2 nights in a row of very very action-y movies. Saturday was a Super Mario Galaxy movie, which is like, it wasn't bad, but it was, I'm such an old dinosaur at this point that it felt like I was being, every sense in my brain was being blasted and bombarded with light, sound, and phenomena. So I was just kind of shutting down about at the halfway point. But it was entertaining. I can give it that. It's definitely on the entertaining side. The night following was Mortal Kombat, which was also enjoyable. Paper-thin plot with a lot of enjoyable characters and action, but hey, just chilling, binge-watching the Star Wars movies. Ooh, he's digging into the great American classics. Alright, that is legit. At which point in the saga, though, is the big question. But either way, not a bad choice. Just, it made me realize, though, sitting through Mortal Kombat, that my brain kind of is either in one of 2 modes at this point. I am either desperate for something very intelligent and dramatic, which will make me feel something as a living being, or I just want to sit there and be entertained by ridiculous nonsense. And needless to say, 2 video game movies in a row was just kind of enjoyable, ridiculous nonsense, but that's okay. Again, they were entertaining. And that's ultimately what it should be. Movies should either be edifying and make you feel good, or they should at least be entertaining. So, both, but Mortal Kombat was fun. It was, my preference of the 2, I guess, as an ancient being who wants something to sink his teeth into a little bit more. But Mario was fun. Beyond that, it's just been kind of a busy week in general. Been plotting and planning and dealing with the internet being the internet, I suppose. Part of what made me very much desire tonight to stick with the art stream theme before I brave up the guts to dip my toes into actual gaming or things of that sort was just finding out that there's way too much of the online world that really, really does not think highly in any regard of artists, like actual artists. And I need to preface my remarks by saying I'm not attacking anybody who just enjoys playing with an AI toy, something that generates an image or a short video or whatever. It's a toy. It's a little genie in a bottle to be played with. But just ended up getting weirdly bombarded this week by people who genuinely just straight up said to my, well, not to my face because it's the internet, but told me directly that traditional artistry, which is human effort, no matter what the tools are, be they paper, tablet, anything in the ballpark of creating art is essentially equal or less than AI-generated material, and I'm just sitting there kind of dumbfounded, like, what? Excuse me? No, it's not, but it's just one of those kind of weird, contentious things right now because people are very much enjoying the new toy, and I guess the main thing is, as somebody said to me, it's like, because they have the ability to use the tool, therefore they feel special, and artists aren't just monopolizing the genre anymore. But I'm just like, I'm sorry if it hurts that you can't make something that you'd like to, but saying that you're generating art or creating art with an AI generator or something is, to me, the equivalent of photoshopping my head on a bodybuilder and saying that I've gotten swole. It doesn't really work that way. But either way, human/Stegosaur man created artwork. It has been in existence for thousands of years. It will always be the gold standard by which art is judged and put on merit. So that is what we're going to do. And yes, Mr. Penzilla, we have achieved good things this week on Utsuno. For those of you who aren't familiar with the character, give me a sec here. So, this is the character I am cosplaying this year at G-Fest, God willing that I don't break my neck beforehand. Name is Utsuno Ikusagami. It's a very frustrating name to remember, and I am sure that the head of the parade at G-Fest this year is probably going to have a little bit of difficulty with it as well, bless his heart. But regardless, it's a character from a 1994 Toho film about gods and monsters, essentially, and god monsters. And the suit is almost done. It's not going to look this good. It's going to look like somebody on a budget that cobbled together bits and pieces to make something passing. But I put my heart, soul, and guts into it, and we do have a suit. It's modular. I'm happy to at least say it's in pieces, so I can at least assemble it around myself. But at this point, all I have to do is just cinch up the suit a bit to make sure that it doesn't fall off into horrendous pieces while I'm walking, and detailing, because you can't see them here in this photo, but the suit is covered in kanji. I'm going to have to go in there with a brush and actually etch in all the little kanji bits and pieces to make sure that it is as accurate as I can possibly make it, and then get some painting done. But other than that, it is done. I did a test on the torso piece last night to make sure that I could get my arms into it and wear it comfortably. And while comfort and kaiju/tokusatsu suit wearing is never exactly comfortable, I am at least happy to say that it is wearable. So that is a good thing. And it's going to be ready to go in a couple of months when G-Fest hits, which I'm not going to be a doom and gloomer, but I do hope that G-Fest happens. You never know what'll happen in the world, but I'm looking forward to it. So there's that. But yes, I hope what you were saying, Penzilla, is also actually happening, because that would make me amazingly happy, and I will look forward to running you through with a sword. But speaking of G-Fest, though, or in general, I have been thinking about it because this Godzilla Fest in Chicago has been going on for a very long time, basically 30 years, minus a couple of years that the world took a break. But I did the math, and I think this year, if I remember right, is going to be our 17th consecutive year, which is kind of insane. And I have taken a lot of costumes, and we have met a lot of wonderful people. But the thing is, like, I am not exactly somebody who one would constitute as being, like, I don't worship celebrity. That's not a thing. But I do very much admire and enjoy people who worked in the kaiju genre in particular, because they're just kind of, they've always been very special to me, and they've always been faces that I love, and they feel less like celebrities that you worship and admire, and to me they've always just been more like sort of family friend sort of figures, because I've always known them. I just think of them as being very close in that sort of familial, happy friend kind of way, not like, oh, you're a celebrity, I must bow at your feet. Because the greatest guest that G-Fest, in my opinion, has ever had, and thankfully we had him several times before he passed, was Akira Takarada. And most of the West only knows him as the guy who was in a few Godzilla movies, in particular the original one. But he was a remarkable talent, was in a lot of movies, only a fraction of which I've ever seen, and he was a singer. And I actually was, thanks to the wonders of YouTube and the internet, I was able to get my hands on some of his old vinyl music and just enjoy it, and it's just fantastic. But Takarada was amazing, and I will always cherish every time I watch. Yeah. 8th is a commendable number. 8 G-Fest is a very commendable number. But I will always remember Takarada especially fondly, and every time I watch one of the movies he's in, it's always very fond for me, because the first time I ever got to take a photo with him and get his autograph and meet him, I was having a good time. He was very sociable, and I asked him to do an action pose, and he responded by punching me in the face, which is amazing. And I love that photo, and it will always be a very cherished memory to me. So, yeah. Penny, get off my lap, sweetie. Okay. But, yeah. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Every year they go by so quickly, and it just feels like they all start to kind of blend together, and they always feel kind of newish. Tonight's agenda, other than me talking and gabbing incessantly, is going to be basically redoing a trading card that I did a few months back, because I started a little series on my DeviantArt that I called Godzilla Universe, which essentially is just me making 90s style trading card like graphics, featuring moments and images from every faction of the Toho franchise, and the American one as well, but mainly it was just I wanted to make trading cards like I remembered making, or I remember loving as a kid, as a young Dino lad, and doing my own artistic spin on certain things. So, the card I wanted to remake... Well, actually, hold on. Where... Oh, if I can find it. Because I didn't get very far before life kind of got in the way. There we go. I didn't get very far before life got in the way, so I only made a couple of cards. But they were just primarily a way for me to continue to make stuff and continue to practice art in my fandom and all that good noise. But I regretted that I gave up on it so... Well, I didn't give up on it, but I sidelined it so quick. So I wanted to redo one of them because I got I got a third card done, and one of my followers on DeviantArt pointed out that I goofed. And it bugs me when I goof, so I decided to redo the card. But this was the first one I did. It was and this one's a little different format, but I did a scene from Gigan, which is my favorite Godzilla movie by leaps and bounds. Just the end of the movie when he's getting all bloodied up and fighting the big robo chicken. And then the second one I did was actually from one of the old Random House novels, which I am very sure few fans at this stage in history are even aware of, much less have read. But in it was the last novel of the series called Godzilla vs. the Robot Monsters, and there was this sort of Cold War going on again between the West and the Russian faction, where they're making giant robots to combat the monsters that have been rising up. So America makes a Mechagodzilla and Russia makes a Mogera. And it had a pilot who was a athletic Russian blonde bombshell who I remember enjoying in the book. So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to make this the second card, because why not? It's my card series. So I was enjoying these, and it was a fun exercise. But I gave up on it after the third one briefly, because the third one I did was a -1 scene. And I wanted to do a moment where, just to sort of pull the camera back and look at more of the sequence when the Godzillasaur gets blasted with radiation, because I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to just see it in the heat of the blast and getting nuked. Unfortunately, I kind of goofed because I didn't understand the context of the scene. I drew the Godzillasaur on land, and it was pointed out to me, no, he was in the water. And I went back and looked at the scene again and was like, frick, they're right. He was underwater when he got hit. So that bugged me, and I was just like, well, far be it for me to be inaccurate. So, so while we're still on it here, I was going through my old folders and found it's an abandoned project which I regret abandoning, and I hope someday I can revitalize it as well. But thanks to the pandemic, I was never able to complete this. I had intended to make a care package for people at Godzilla Fest, like kids, mainly just kids. I was going to make a care package that would feature a coloring book, a homemade Mothra pendant, bookmarks, and other stuff, just to kind of be like, especially for like new people, just like, hey, welcome to G-Fest, here's a present. And I actually got other friends to contribute to the coloring book, and it was going along great. And then the pandemic hit, and all those plans and other things got in our way financially, and I was like, well, so much for that plan. But I did make artwork for that as well. In case anybody has no idea what this is an educational anime from the 90s called Godzilla Land, where Godzilla had, they were all chibi designed and looking big-eyed and adorable, but he had a little girlfriend named Gojirin, and she's kind of become more popular the more people have discovered her. But then I did a little bit of Gamera artwork for the book, which, I like Gamera, not as much as the big G, but I do greatly cherish the turtle, so I did a picture of Gamera and Giron. This was sort of a twist on a manga thing where Godzilla was a warrior dressed up in armor. I put him more in samurai armor, which this armor is actually based on the action figure of Michelangelo from Ninja Turtles 3, because I love that toy and the armor on it is gorgeous. So I just took it and slapped it on the big guy. But yeah, this was a coloring book project that we were going to do, and I would like to actually finish it someday and still distribute it, but that is for the future. So, in the meantime, tonight's ambition is to fix the card and to chitty-chatty with you as I do so. So, for digital line work, what I typically will do is make a pencil version, which then I scan, because it's just easier for me to usually do a baseline thing in pencil, and then scan that into the computer, and then have it in to digitally draw over. So this is the scene. I'll change the opacity here real briefly so you can just kind of see it. But this is the image, just him now underwater, getting blasted by the nuke. So I just drop the opacity down a little bit so I can go to the line layer. And we can begin fixing this card because I am kind of an annoying perfectionist in my own way. So there you go. But other than that, I hope everyone is doing well. We're swinging into nice weather. Nice weather is agreeable. And let's see, 8, 10, there we go. And just to make sure that I get details idealized here, I do have my little Odo Island Godzillasaur figure on hand to make sure I don't further screw anything up, because if there's one thing that I know to be true of kaiju fanboys is that they are incredibly picky when it comes to making sure that details are correct, even if you're doing it in a sort of artistic rendering like I am here, where it's my own style and my own version of it. They still want to make sure that you're doing it right, and I understand that. I agree. You know, you shouldn't half-ass these things. So I have my little guy here, and we're gonna make sure that it looks as proper as possible. That, and I don't have a lot of experience at this point doodling the Godzillasaur because he's still relatively new. Like most Godzilla-related creatures and elements and things, I can pretty well doodle from memory. I've been doing it for a long time, longer than some of my friends have been alive, to be honest. But this one, I need a little bit more assistance. That's what I'm going to do, is just give it a little bit more assistance by just kind of eyeballing my figure here. Make sure that I get things correct. This is the way. Yeah. Speaking of the oversized lizard, though, Mrs. Stegman was very nice to insist that I do something nice for us for our upcoming anniversary. So I actually got my anniversary gift a little early, which turned out to be a surprisingly nice Bandai figure. They call it the Ichibansho line, but they're a little bigger than the average Bandai Godzilla figure. And this one had glowing blue backplates, and it is a Godzilla 91 from King Ghidorah, and it is gorgeous. I love Godzilla figures with glowing blue backplates, especially when they're translucent plastic, because it is freaking gorgeous. So, yeah, that made me happy. Made me happy during what has otherwise been a very tiring and kind of painful week, physically speaking. Things have been aggravating on the neck front, and we'll get past that eventually, but it's been a long week. Still doing a lot of stuff at the job and keeping busy, like I mentioned, with the stuff with the broski. So it's just nice to be able to chillax here, get a little present, and get some art done. I'm trying something a little different with my... Oops, don't crash on me here. I should probably save. I don't get in the habit as much as I should of saving my work while I'm in progress. Because if you ever do work in digital, you learn the value very quickly of backing up your work. Excuse me. because famous story, there was a Korean manga team that was working on a manga title called Black God. It's kind of an action manga about godlike fighters, and they did all of their work digitally. They didn't do pen to paper. It was all on the computer. And they had a power outage, and the team that was working in the little studio all looked at each other and they're like, how much work did you lose? And they just said, about 2 hours. And that is depressing. That is horribly depressing when you're in the middle of work and you're in the groove and you're just going along and everything's hunky-dory. And suddenly you're like, oh, well, crap. So, yeah. I do try to remind myself as much as possible to actually save my work. It's not always easy because you just get in the groove and you don't think about it and whatever, but, you know. There we go. Another nice important thing about the pencil pass to the digital pass is it helps you to correct a few mistakes. Like, I did not have this mouth positioned right, so now we can fix that. Yeah. What else is going on? I mentioned the dumb AI business. The movies. Yeah, like, right now I realize I'm kind of in the mood for cheese, like back to movie cheese. I want an excuse to watch more cheese. Like, I started watching old Mr. T cartoons again, and I'm in the middle of Hanna-Barbera in my Toho marathon that I do every year to varying degrees of success, and that is cheese incarnate. Like, you don't get more cheese than Hanna-Barbera. But I love Hanna-Barbera. That cartoon is just glorious cheese. I can almost hear my cat somewhere in the background going, glorious cheese, yes! Oh. But, needless to say, this is fun. Like, I have spent the better part of, gosh, what is it now, 25 years watching glorious cheese with my best friends. And it never gets old. There's just something about watching cheese that never gets old. Wonderful. So, as far as future streams, it's probably I've been thinking about doing Subnautica anyway, but probably a good time to strike while the iron's hot, I suppose, because Subnautica 2 is going into early access sometime this month. I think it's in about or maybe, actually it might be tomorrow now that I think about it, as of the premiere of this stream. So Subnautica 2 is coming out, and it's one of my go-to comfort games, in spite of the fact that I am petrified of the ocean and have horrendous thalassophobia myself, but it's one of those things where you just kind of love the thing that scares you. For the most part, at least you love it in a context where you're safe. And yeah, I don't know how soon I'll be able to actually play Subnautica 2, but I am looking forward to it. Graphical upgrade, I'm sure, is going to be magnificent, given the fact that the first game released, like over 10 years ago. I want to say like 13, 14 years ago at this point. But regardless of that, let's see. That'll be fun, but I'm just worried about gaming because I know that I have a good computer. I just don't know if it is... I haven't tested it yet. I don't know if it's fully up to the challenge of streaming plus gaming, but we will find out. Yeah, just Obviously, my bread and butter and the main draw with most of my art and why I have any followers at all, which I'm very grateful for, is the Godzilla stuff. But I love monster movies. I love the kaiju and tokusatsu genre so much. But some of my earliest monster films outside of the obvious of Godzilla and Toho, Rodan, essentially, was some of the best of the dumb. Because if you've never seen the giant claw, get some friends. If you're old enough to have a drinking game, have a drinking game, and take a shot every time somebody in the giant claw says big as a battleship or the word battleship. I love that stupid movie. The bird is ridiculous. The dialogue and the science, pseudoscience mumbo jumbo is glorious. The puppet is so dumb, but it's gloriously dumb. I love it. I love it immensely. But, eventually got around to Gamera, partially thanks to Mystery Science Theater. Actually, that's not true. I liked Gamera before Mystery Science Theater, but I fell in love with... Hey, it's Sonic! Greetings, bud. I was just talking about my less but not unenthusiastic love of Gamera. But yeah, I remember the first time I was actually ever really aware of Gamera was... I was young. I was a youngin', and I got invited to a Star Trek convention. And it was very small. They did have some nice guests. I got to be in the presence of Uhura and Scotty and Chekhov and some of the greats. But yeah, they had a little vendor's room, and one of the vendor's tables had a small television set up that was just playing Gamera 3, The Revenge of Iris. And I'd never seen a Gamera movie at that point, but I had definitely not seen any of the Heisei ones. And watching clips, like the last act, because it was in the last act, it was the final fight of Revenge of Iris, when you grew up used to Godzilla vs. Megalon, Gigan, Rodan, and King Kong vs. Godzilla, and the Giant Claw. And I love those movies, but they were definitely a different generation and a different overall production quality. You suddenly go from that to Gamera Revenge of Iris, and just watching that fight unfold as I was just standing there beside the dealer's table, my little brain was blown. And I was just sitting there like, holy crap! Like, this looked better than anything I had ever seen. It was obviously still men in suits kind of stuff and model cities and whatever, but I had never seen anything look that good. So eventually, some of my best friends who did happen to own the Gamera Heisei films on VHS tape were like, oh, you want to watch Gamera? Let's watch Gamera. And we watched the trilogy together, and I was just like, dude, Godzilla is my first love, no matter what, but like these movies set the bar high, and it was amazing. So, needless to say, even though I am not as big of a Gamera fanboy, I love the turtle very much and have the utmost respect for him, and I hope someday he gets the revival he deserves, because I did watch the Netflix Rebirth show. It was not bad by any means. It certainly wasn't. I think it was actually made, if I'm not mistaken. I'll be corrected by somebody, I'm sure. But I believe it was made by the same director team that did the Netflix Godzilla anime, and hands down, I will absolutely say it was better than the Netflix Godzilla anime. I will not argue that. It was good, but it just, I guess it didn't super wow me. Other than the fact that they made some very interesting choices with some of the monsters, like Giron was nuts. I rather enjoyed what they did with Giron, because just it went from being what you would expect out of Showa Giron, just somebody doing the kaiju crawl with a big blade on his head, to suddenly just flipping around and doing insanity and okay, so when I say could have been better, and I've watched it once, so admittedly it could use a little rewatch. My main problem was just kind of the animation and how stiff a lot of people looked, because even though I do prefer it to the Godzilla anime, the quality on the human CG characters was actually kind of worse, and it was a little distracting. Honestly, that's my biggest gripe. Like, it was fine. It was very enjoyable overall. I didn't appreciate the dub being a little fast and loose with some of the dialogue, because I don't know Japanese fluently, but even I could tell that they were not being very strictly faithful to what was being said on screen sometimes. I think they were trying to Americanize the dialogue a little too much. But honestly, that was my only really big gripe, was just the quality of the human animation. And I get it, they were probably on a budget. It was more than likely just budget restraints, or else it probably would have looked more like Ghost in the Shell, or some of the stuff that's more recent that typically has much more advanced human models. But no, other than that, I did enjoy it. And Gamera is probably a pretty underappreciated boy, so he still does get massive respect and kudos from me. But no, I saw the Heisei series first, and then went back and watched the Showa Gamera films, and that was probably not the best move. I think I would have appreciated the franchise a little better if I'd gone in reverse, but that's not what happened. And I do enjoy them a lot, and they are iconic. Like, one of my best friends in the fandom at one point, he's created some legendary but legendary Zegra costumes, and just some very talented people have applied their magic to the Gamera franchise. Like Gamera the Brave is like fantastic movie, like unironically fantastic. I was at college and had just purchased the DVD and was actually watching it in the hall of the dorms, and a bunch of guys who I knew, like I wasn't really close with them, but I knew them, came walking by and was just like, "Oh, what is this? What is this Japanese crap you're watching? This looks like Power Rangers or something." And so they sat down. Oh yeah, I envy you. I do envy you, man. I wish I could have started with the original Gamera and moved forward, but it was not to be. But no, these dormitory mates I had all started just sitting around the TV with me, I think with the intention of essentially roasting it Mystery Science Theater style, and that's kind of how they started. But the further along the movie went, they kind of shut up. And by the end of Gamera the Brave, I had all these former sort of playful haters sitting around and actually being like, "Holy crap, dude, that was actually good." I was like, "Yeah?" Yeah? You know, this is why this is my favorite genre. This stuff is good. This stuff's fun, and sometimes they actually tell some pretty good stories. If you've never seen Gamera the Brave, it is a surprisingly mature kids movie. Like, it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's sort of in that vein of like 90s films that were ostensibly for children, but then would rug pull you at some point and make you cry or just be like, holy crap, this has dark themes for what's supposed to be a kid's film. Because there's child death in that movie. There's people being eaten left and right by Zetas, the giant Dilophosaurus looking thing. Gamera's no stranger to getting messed up. So he bleeds a lot in that film, like he always does. But they kept that aspect intact, and it had to do with a child's grief and trying to reconnect with his father, and just surprisingly mature themes and execution. Like, whoever made the film was not treating it like it was supposed to be a stupid kids movie. They were treating it with clear actual respect and the desire to make it a good film. And they absolutely succeeded in that. Gamera the Brave is undoubtedly one of the best Gamera films, but it's also a really, really strong kaiju movie. Like, one of the best representations of the kaiju genre. And yeah, it's just great movie, and it won some converts that night in the hallway. So I made, because like I know a lot of guys that I've watched Godzilla movies with, and it didn't do much for them. Like, they enjoyed it fine, but it didn't turn them into converts. But Gamera the Brave actually made a bunch of just random dudes I knew just be like, you know what? Yeah, good stuff. So I'll always appreciate the movie for that. Think of other stuff. Weirdly enough, I know it's probably surprising for me to say so, but weirdly enough, I've never been the biggest King Kong fan. Like, growing up as a kid, Grandma Stegman did have the original King Kong in her VHS collection, and I did watch it a bunch of times, but I've never been, look, call it species prejudice. I am a dinosaur, but I've never been as big a fan of apes in general, like movies or life. So King Kong was never a character I felt as much of a connection to, especially in the original movie. Don't get me wrong, the original movie is a classic, and I respect the frick out of it. And I did watch it a lot. Like, it was entertaining, and I thought it was really cool. But I just never have been like a fanboy of Kong. That's why, honestly, I can just kind of say that the MonsterVerse Kong is my favorite, because I like the fact that not only has he been allowed to live and survive more than one or two movies, but he actually has a character arc that you can follow, which I appreciate. He gets more character development, his relationship with Gia and the other humans, and to the greater world itself, and it's just like, yeah, I dig it. I dig being able to follow him, finally becoming a father kind of thing, as silly as that sounds, but it's like, hey, yeah, he gets to be a dad now, and he found his people, and all that cool kind of jazz. Like, I like that. It makes me happy that I can actually follow a Kong that kind of has more payoff. I like that. But again, no disrespect to the classics at all. Absolutely not. I am a firm, staunch believer in respect the source material and respect the originals. But yeah, MonsterVerse Kong is my favorite. But old school Kongs have definitely given me a lot of joy as well. One of my favorite nights that I ever had with my best friend group was, we decided, of all things, that we were going to watch King Kong Lives. And if you haven't heard of that one, good for you. No shade on the fans of it, but 05 King Kong. Yeah, 05 Kong, I like a lot. I have issues with the length. Like, I think it could have been tightened up a little bit, but I do like it a lot. I really do. But no, it was fun to watch in theaters. Like, 05 Kong was a treat to just see on the big screen. But we watched King Kong Lives one night, which is a sequel to the 1976 Yeah, I mean, I know. King Kong was Peter Jackson's favorite movie. He said so himself, and he wanted to make it into an epic, so I do not blame him for that. And he has proven he can make good, long movies, obviously. But the 1976 Kong came out. It had a sequel, 10 years later, I think it was? And that was King Kong Lives. And King Kong Lives is a hilariously awful train wreck. It's actually an early movie in the career of Linda Hamilton, and God bless her that she survived that experience and went on to do Terminator and all that stuff, because King Kong Lives is an experience, and it's not a very good one. But yeah, they bring Kong, he didn't die at the end of Kong 76, and they give him a gigantic pacemaker, which is one of the funniest things I have ever seen. But then the reason it remained in our memories as a friend group and became so legendary to us was because of something we misheard. And I will never forget this, and it's so stupid, but it's just that kind of thing that you do with your friends. Something stupid is said and you just laugh about it and you never forget it. But there's this jackass military guy in the film, and he is hell-bent on taking Kong down, and the usual over authoritarian movie military guy, whatever. And so at one point they're chasing Kong, and this platoon of soldiers is riding along in a field on a bunch of jeeps, and the commander dude is just one of his subordinates is on walkie-talkie, and he's like, "Sir, King Kong's been sighted ahead," or something like that. And the commander, the line that the commander says is range. He yells out, "Range!" And so the guy answers back 11 miles, sir. Something like that. That's the actual scene. But we were watching the movie on an old VHS tape back in the heyday, and we did not hear range. We heard brains! So it just sounded to us like the guy said, "Sir, Kong sighted up ahead. Brains! 11 miles!" And we're so stupid. We ended up laughing about that the whole night. It's one of our favorite callbacks that we bring up with each other when we get together. It's like, brains! So, again, this is stupid guy stuff. This is stupid friend group, stupid inside joke kind of business. But it's just something that we embraced, and we have King Kong Lives to thank for that. Sort of created this running joke, Kong was zombies. But that was honest. I've never rewatched the movie, so it kind of became the best thing about a movie that I did not care very much for. But that's my point. That's why it's so fun sometimes to just watch stupid things with your mates and your best friends and your spouse and whatever, because you just have those special little silly moments, and it's glorious. But yeah. Oops, I am forgetting details. Dagnabbit. So let me pull back here a second. Oh my. Alright, this boy's coming along. I may not get this done in one sitting, so this might be a multi-part venture here, doing our Godzillasaur. Certainly not going to get it colored tonight, but that's okay. I mean, I'd have to stay up probably till 11 o'clock or midnight in order to get it actually done. And that is not going to happen. But we will do what is possible. I'm actually rather liking this look. I'm trying something a little different than I normally do here with the with the lines, because usually I'll just go with I'll demonstrate. Usually I'll go with more of a solid black digital line of this variety, but didn't feel that for tonight. I wanted to try the pencil tool, and I wanted to see what I could do with the pencil tool, and little bit more of a look. Something a little different than my norm. But it's just, like I mentioned earlier, and I promise I will not rag on it the whole night or go on about it the whole night. But it was something I had wanted to mention. But as far as the whole AI discussion, I'm very grateful and happy to say that a lot of people, especially on actual art websites, did come to my side to just say, yeah, art is actual sentient effort. It is human effort, Stegosaur effort in my case, which is made by somebody. I like the way one person put it in my comments section. They just said, AI has never felt love, hatred, yearning, longing, loss, anything of that variety. So it doesn't aspire, it doesn't seek to better itself, it therefore cannot make art. And to that I say, effing men, because that is part of the purpose of art in the human experience, is we make it to communicate ideas, feelings, stories, history, longing, just the whole absolute package of what it means to exist. Because here's an easy example. I'm working on a new graphic novel, and it is going to take years for me to finish it. And some people I have seen say, well, that's a waste. You shouldn't have to take years to make a story. AI is a tool that you should feel free to use to take the shortcut, get it done in hours or days, whatever the case may be. Save yourself the time and be content with the fact that you got it made. Getting it made is all that matters, so be content with that. To that I say, sure, you can create something by doing it that way, but I have been working on this story in some form or another. It has been conceptualized in my brain, in my heart, getting worked on, getting refined, getting adjusted, getting fixed, getting changed for the better, on, for the better part of, depending on how you want to look at it, maybe 20 years, but certainly for 10 years, seriously, as something that I've been fiddling with to get made into a proper graphic novel. And it's a very slow process, and it is in development, and I could cheat, I suppose. But what that robs me of in the experience is not only the fact that I am making something with my own hands that isn't just a genie in the bottle saying, poof, here you go, here's something that's finished, enjoy. I have channeled. What the artist does is not just to create in a vacuum. The artists create something that is a reflection of their own soul, their own wants, needs, desires, longings, and you can't make an AI story, book, novel, even a lot of art pieces within a few moments or hours or whatever it takes for all these AI novels that people are pumping out on Amazon or whatever it is. And you can't have it be imbued with an actual soul. I have cried and laughed and enjoyed the process deeply these many years as I've refined this story and felt different inspiration at different points that has allowed this story I am working on to develop for the better. That does not happen in an instant. That does not happen overnight. It doesn't just get magically done. Art does not just magically get done overnight. No AI could ever replace the human suffering and emotional toll that the Sistine Chapel took on Michelangelo. It is impossible. And it will never be valued or cherished or as meaningful as that to anybody They could look at it, and to me it's like content when you're doom scrolling somewhere. And you're just like, oh, I saw that. That was interesting. Okay, next. Like, that's what happens. You're not making anything significant. So, again, I'll get off the soapbox, I promise. And look, this isn't me being delusional. I am not the greatest artist on this planet. I am not even in the top million of great artists on this planet. And that is okay. But what I make with love, and I make with actual human effort, and that is what art is. It is actual human effort. So, again, off the soapbox, but it had to be said, because there is no cheat. There is no shortcut. There is no genie in the bottle. Art is a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I understand that and I appreciate that. And there is art that I do not like, but that doesn't change the fact that it is still some form of art. It is what it is. But it is still art because it is human effort. It's creative effort, and that's the difference. Alright, getting off the old soapbox there, but I think my point's been made, so I don't want to beat the dead Uma into paste. But, yeah. That, and it's also very chilling and fun. Like, a lot of years when I've made up art, or I've worked on art projects, you don't have to just sit there in a bubble, just staring at a screen and just being miserable. Like, I watch a lot of stuff, I listen to a lot of stuff while I make work. I've probably gone through the Mystery Science Theater movie franchise like 10 times at this point, just having it on as laughing material and something to enjoy the background. Or I've listened to audiobooks, or I've just listen to good mood music to set the scene of what I'm working on, or anything like that. Like, it's not just sitting there miserable like you're doing some sort of a horrid 9-to-5 job. Art and creative things are also an opportunity to sort of slip into your happy zone and your happy place and rest. You're not going to get that if you make a prompt. You might... Anyway, okay, I promised, off the soapbox. But yes, you get my point. It is also a form of therapeutic enjoyment. And that's something that I have certainly always used it for. Certainly, in my case, I won't go into the trauma dump territory. That's not something I want to belabor streams with all too much. But I had an interesting youth, and bad things definitely happened that I would love to have said did not, but art and the act of creation is an absolute boon to the soul of somebody who has been through some crap. It is a gateway to better things and better thoughts and just better activity than succumbing to your worst instincts, or wasting your life, or getting involved in bad things, or getting into very dark thoughts and dark places and all stuff like that there. And it's not just artistic, like illustrative endeavors. Like, some guys work on cars, some people sculpt in clay. I also sculpt in clay. Some people do ballet and dance. Some people do home design. Some people do whatever. Like, there's lots and lots and lots of things that are human effort and reflections of human creativity that are infinitely better than, being stuck in a sort of dark place in your mind and a sad place in your heart. So it is an element of why it is part of thousands of years of the human experience. Somebody famously once said, "Why do we laugh? Because we must laugh." Why do we create? Because some of us must create. It's necessary. It's as necessary for some of us as breathing and eating. It's just, we couldn't imagine doing without it, because life is just so much more abysmal without it. It's far less fun. It's like, I just imagine, I mean, there's other things that people could have ended up doing, I guess, but I'm like, man, imagine if Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman had never just randomly decided they wanted to have fun just creating a bunch of stupid turtles with masks, just indulge themselves in the joy of a little creation. Well, we wouldn't have 40 years of the Ninja Turtles, so there you go. Some people do it because they're depressed and because they need something better to do with their brains. The most famous example is probably Van Gogh. The man was severely depressed, and he ventured into creative endeavors. I wish I could say that story ended better, but his expression and his creative human effort still gave a lot of joy to generations of people, and was still worthwhile in that regard. And it's a good, if nothing else, a good example of what does happen when you do indulge in your better self and your better things, and so on and so forth. So, whatever area of life that you seek your creative expression, or things of a similar nature, please don't neglect it. And especially because so many things are edifying precisely because they are human endeavor doing something good. And that is what art is, down to the guy that like one of my best friends, who his skillful human endeavor is working in IT, and so on and yappity yap yap. But I'm just a very big advocate for such things, and especially at this point, because we're being kind of told that more and more people are becoming anxious and very unfulfilled and dissatisfied with life. And I genuinely believe, to a degree, that for a lot of people, there's a lot of elements that go into that. It's the heart and the spirit are in concert, and they can be neglected, but having outlets and having things to pour your passion into. Excuse me one moment. Having something to pour your creative passion into, even if it's not art or drawing or music, if you're not a musician, whatever, there's always still things that you can find that are edifying to your soul, that make you, for some people it's bodybuilding. I mentioned the bodybuilding thing earlier. Being health-minded and being disciplined in the gym and with your diet, that kind of stuff. That's human effort. You are bettering yourself because that's your passion. And it creates a very obvious benefit that you can't fake and you can't just pass off on a computer program. I suppose somebody might think that's a weak analogy, but whatever, I'm sticking to it. Yeah, boy! Dumbbells are fun. Just don't hurt yourself before you get competent with whatever level you're at. I have a bad feeling that perhaps a part of my current medical issues is because I might have gone a little too hard at one point with some of the weights or some of the manner in which I was doing exercise. You definitely need to pace yourself and to be kind to yourself, even as you are working on improving yourself. But yeah, just it's a very positive thing to hear, my lad. And funny enough, I saw one of the for anybody who is health conscious and is trying to decide where their comfort zone and where they're happy with fitness and getting healthier and all that. Funny enough, I saw a short a few weeks ago. It was an interview from Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk himself, giving very good life advice on, especially guys who go to the gym and are trying to do weights and get into fitness more and all that stuff. Because, he was massive and just covered in ridiculous amounts of muscle in his prime. And everybody always assumes, oh, when you get swole and when you get super fit and all that, you aim to lift heavier and heavier, and you try to lift more weights and get super weights going on and be one of those monsters that lifts weights that are like 3 times heavier than your body and they're huge and whatever. Don't do that. The Hulk himself said the way he got fit and got muscular like he did was to never push his body to the point of dangerous pain. He actually lifted pretty light for a guy that was like a super bodybuilder. He never got beyond a certain point, and he said he always did what felt comfortable to his body, and he stuck with that. So don't feel the pressure that you ever need to go beyond reasonable limits, never do anything dangerous, because he didn't, and he was a frickin' walking Grecian god for most of his career. So just let that encourage you. It is more about stick-to-itiveness and staying the course than it is just showing off and doing something ridiculous. Which, I could use a little bit more of that discipline myself. I'm no slouch, but I definitely tend to be one of those on again, off again guys, just because I get tired a lot. Especially last year and the year before that, when I was working 2 jobs, I was not exercising. I was not doing much because I just come home and be exhausted. And that's unfortunately just the reality for some people. But I've been back at it since I whittled it back down to the single job. And trying to regain and get back on a routine. And that's the thing. So just kind of get back to it and just push yourself a little bit. Be your own biggest encouragement. Just don't be down on yourself. And just one step at a time. Eventually, you look behind you and you're like, whoa, I've taken a lot of steps. In my worst Keanu Reeves voice. So, oh goodness, this is definitely taking a lot longer than I intended, but hey, I am liking this boy. He is looking sufficiently dinosaurian, which I love. The Godzillasaur from this movie so much. Like, nothing will ever replace the love I have in my heart for the 1991 version of the Godzillasaur from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. I love that. I love that suit. I love that silly movie so much. But this Godzillasaur was awesome. He was so scary. He was so cool. He was so badass. It was kind of silly that he wasn't allowed to eat anybody because Toho has those rules in place that Godzilla is not allowed to ever eat a human. Some people don't know, because you'll watch that, if you ever watch the reactions on YouTube, what, so-and-so watches Minus One for the first time, a lot of them will actually point that out and be like, oh, he's just picking people up in his mouth and throwing them? Why? That doesn't seem like very dinosaurian behavior. but it's exactly because of Toho, because that is one of their cardinal rules that you cannot break if you're making a Godzilla movie as one of their directors. You cannot allow Godzilla to eat a human being. So Yamazaki was also bound to this. I don't know if he even wanted to have Godzilla eat somebody, but regardless, he would have been bound to that rule. And so the Godzillasaur only ever picked people up in its mouth and chucked them. So it comes off a little silly when you think about it. Instead of it's not like they were going to go R-rated hardcore either. He wasn't going to chomp somebody in half in a PG-13 Godzilla film. But every time I think about it, it just makes me kind of chuckle. It's just like, and yeet! And somebody's gone 100 yards! Woohoo! But yeah, that's the reason. That's why Godzilla can't eat people, is because Toho said no, because it would go against the image. Killing thousands of people in an attack on Tokyo, absolutely okay. That's acceptable. You don't have to do it in such a way that it's overly traumatizing or damaging to the character's reputation. But eating people, that is a no-no. That is no bueno. No bueno. Oh, man. Speaking of things of human effort, though, as I did mention earlier with our friend Penzilla, Utsuno costume is almost done, and that makes me very happy. I am still trying to find a little time here and there to work on sculpting and clay figure projects, but it's been kind of pushed to the sideline with work-related matters and working on the costume and just kind of being busy in general. But I do intend to finish the roster of Godzilla the Series figurines that I've still got on tap to do. I got a bunch of those I want to finish because I love that cartoon so much. A few more monsters from that show to make. I intend to, because I've got a checklist, right? It's sort of my absolute bucket list of all the 3D figures and characters that I want to achieve. No R-rated Godzilla, never. Not allowed. I understand that reference, Sonic all the way. Yeah, you have for sure put a few things in your fan comic that certain Toho executives would probably go pale if you were pitching a movie to them. Be like, okay, here's my vision, and they would just be like, speaking of that, ladies and gentlemen, give me one moment here, because I actually need to look up some. I apologize for my brain, but I have a very bad habit of forgetting correct names. It comes with being, unfortunately, thousands of years old. So, give me one moment to look up something here, so I'm not screwing it up. There we go. But yes, our excuse me. Our friend Sonic All the Way 30 here is also a rather accomplished kaiju fan artist, Godzilla fan artist, and he has a long-running comic book on DeviantArt called Godzilla. Oh, frick, the FON. It's, dang it. My brain, I'm blanking. I'm so sorry. I just remember the abbreviation. FON stands for, it was, Force of Nature. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Force of Nature. Yes. Yes. He's been working on this thing for ever. And some of it is very, very creative, and as he said before, Toho will never greenlight it because we've got horrific, monstrous Hedoras and very scary versions of other pre-established monsters. Frick, even Gorosaurus you made shockingly like Lost World Jurassic Park levels of like scary. So no, they will never hire you, unfortunately, to do anything properly, but in terms of the fan work, I would definitely recommend giving him a look because it's just fun. It's a continuation of the Heisei series as well, which is my favorite overall period of Godzilla media. So it is a lot like it is like mine in a way. He's not ripping me off. We both had the same general desire to make a continuation of the Heisei era because it's just still such a great template for further storytelling to continue with that particular story and those human characters and that particular world that they created. So yeah, if you like Godzilla fan art, you should definitely check out his stuff. Because it is a long-running story. Like, he has stuck with it, and sticking to it is half the battle, to steal something from G.I. Joe. Like, you can be the most insanely talented artist in the world, and you can be unbelievably skilled with a pen and a digital tablet and all that, but if you don't stick to it, and if you abandon a project after 1, 5, 10 pages and leave it on a never-ending cliffhanger that your audience will just be disappointed in, well, that kind of sucks. That's too bad. You know, you're not meeting your potential. I'm feeling like you probably just disappoint yourself at that point, and your audience is going to be sad for it, because like, oh man, I wanted to see the end of this. All kudos for the longevity of your work. So, yeah. But no, real art. It takes time and emotional investment, and you can't replace that. And even if it doesn't look as pretty, I suppose, as some things, you can't mask real. Like, I would trade every funny AI-generated art thing I've ever seen, and I've seen some funny AI art things made by people. Like, I won't deny that it's been used for some comedic effect, and I've appreciated it from time to time, but I would happily let it all disappear into the void if it meant, you know, Studio Ghibli films wouldn't exist anymore, or whatever. Like, if I had to save Studio Ghibli and the only way to do it was to banish AI to the Shadow Realm, oh, absolutely. Studio Ghibli films are some of the most inspirational, amazing pieces of real art that exist in the world of animated illustration. Just glorious and so fulfilling to the soul. I love it. I need to watch some again. I notice when my spirit starts to feel that it's kind of, I guess, most weary and I want to give up on art. There's that little part of me that's just like, no, just hold up. Go watch a Studio Ghibli movie and you will feel re-inspired. And that tends to be the case. Yeah, that absolutely tends to be the case. I saw some meme the other day which was just like people who have watched My Neighbor Totoro versus people who haven't watched My Neighbor Totoro, and it was just pretty much like have not watched, and it's just sheer depression. Like, you just don't know what you're missing kind of a thing, and those moments in my life where I have come to be exposed to something I never knew I was missing in my life. Those are happy golden moments. Like, we all have those. Like, you hear that one song by that one artist, or you see that one show or movie or whatever. Like, there's something that's a painting, whatever it is, just something that speaks to you that you never knew you were missing. Love at first sight. And you absolutely need it in your life, and you don't want to be without it ever again. I consider Kiki's Delivery the cure for burnout. Kiki's amazing. Like, it's the perfect example of how the man makes stuff that is... It and Totoro are perfect examples of stuff that are made to be perfectly family-friendly and appropriate, but it does not matter how old you get at all. They still completely succeed in just being funny and charming and satisfying and emotional. I love Miyazaki. I will cry hard when that man passes. For sure. Like, it will be... I'm going to regret this, but what is My Neighbor Totoro? Okay. Hi, Shively. Okay, you're not going to regret it. It is a wonderful film, but it may not be in your wheelhouse. Like, I'll say that. It's an animated movie about a family in the 1950s that moves out to the countryside, like in the deep woods, and two girls are being raised by their dad because mom is in the hospital with an undisclosed illness, and the girls are very anxious and upset about mom possibly dying, and so they're visited by some forest creatures that help cheer them up. And it's very simple. It's a very simple fairy tale kind of movie, but it is just... It's kind of my perfect movie. It just makes me happy. It is my favorite movie of all time. Like, if I had to eradicate every other movie on my shelf and only have one for the rest of my existence, it would suck to not have others, but that would be my one. Yes, very, very heartfelt. Your anime or Dimitri's anime? No, definitely not Dimitri's anime. This is made to be fairy tale family fare, not Oingo Boingo. That side of the anime equation. Not the fan service, not the harem stuff. I do like me some good, more mature anime from time to time. Like, I would recommend the Appleseed series to anybody. That's some good sci-fi, kind of dystopian kind of anime that's got really good mech designs and technology and all that kind of stuff. Just because I'm paranoid, how can you guys hear the music I selected? It always seems like sometimes the music is not always showing up, so I'll quiet down for a second, just in case. But if my music's not coming through of it, heard of it and seen a clip. Okay, thank you, Sonic. But yeah, I love Appleseed. It's actually I appreciate you bringing that up, Shively, because I was actually hoping to segue at some point into bringing up like what are my personal favorite kind of anime that I think people actually would enjoy that are very, very underknown, depending on what genre you like. But I think I did mention a few the last time, and so I won't repeat those necessarily. But there were a few that I forgot that I absolutely love, and nobody knows about them. But isn't that the one with the mech that has the bunny ears? Yes! Appleseed has a... He was a dude that... I think he got shot. Briarios. He gets shot, and they save him by putting him in a mech suit body, like cyborg body with bunny ears. So... But the franchise has had a lot of different iterations, but I love the mech design. I love the kind of retro sci-fi aesthetic that it it's that sort of... it's it's like that dirty sci-fi. Like all the machinery looks very used, very worn in, nuts and bolts. Everything kind of looks like a crazy mechanized tank or a VTOL with really cool engines and crazy guns. Bubblegum Crisis is kind of another one in that same ballpark. It's like chicks in suits of armor that fight mechs, you know, Power Rangers for that same genre kind of a thing. It's fun. If you like samurai stuff or things in this sort of like silly samurai comedy niche, one of my all-time favorite anime is a 13-episode short series called Tsukekage Ran, spelled with a T, Tsu Tsukekage. It's hard to just spell off the top of my head, sorry. But the whole series is on YouTube and other free platforms at this point, but it's just like it's a short comedy about a samurai woman in the feudal era, and she just goes around looking for booze. Hello, Awesome Godzilla. Hey, welcome. Welcome in. Thank you so much. It's very, very satisfying, and I'm very appreciative of anybody just happening to find us. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much. But yeah, I'm taking my sweet time on this guy because I do not want to. I don't want to rush. This is going to be a. Oh shoot! I did it. Dang it! I did it again. I forgot a particular detail. I get rolling, and I get chatty, and I forget certain details. So I might have to actually do a little erasing here. Hold on. Let's see. Because okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I do. I forgot this. So the essence of what this is for anybody coming in late, I am working on basically a trading card. A little while ago, I was working on some. Essentially, they were supposed to be like old school trading card images that I'd make up to look like sort of those old trading cards we had in the 90s with comic book art and stuff on them, just depicting certain scenes from Godzilla films or parts of the franchise. And this is meant to be my interpretation of a scene in Godzilla Minus One where he gets nuked underwater when he's a smaller dinosaur and gets, with the event that turns him into the beast that he eventually becomes. But I keep forgetting to kind of include these little, you can kind of see where I'm indicating here with the mouse, but these little patches on his skin where essentially he's getting burned alive, because that's what the nuke did. It just singed off flesh, and just it would have been an intense, insane heat. So this is going to be the card, my third card in the series. I did make some others, but this is the first one that I am trying to do fully digital. I do need digital practice because, unfortunately, being a old school paper, pen, and manga pen kind of artist most of the time, I understand that I can always use more practice on digital because I just fear it. It's hard to feel the same on a tablet as it does on a page, because physically it is a different sensation. It's not the same thing. The drag of the pencil on a piece of paper versus sliding the nib across the screen, kind of a thing. That, and when you've got really big, fat, obnoxious dinosaur fingers like me, it makes it a lot harder too. But regardless of that fact, and yes, I should point out, I am definitely prejudiced towards the big G, because obviously as a member of the Stegosaur community, He is a national treasure, being that he's essentially a bipedal stegosaur. Just, you don't get that a lot. Okay, I think that's the body. Yeah. So I'm going to add some flakes. I'm gonna add some little bits and pieces of essentially Team Gamut. What's Team Gamut? Are you saying Team Gamera? Or am I not understanding the reference? Team Gamera, yeah, okay. So, I did mention Gamera earlier in the stream. I do love Gamera. He is a wonderful turtle. He is the friend of all children. But, just, unfortunately, the boy hasn't had as many movies and doesn't get as much of a chance to shine. Where's Godzilla sitting at? Godzilla is at total, counting American, Japanese, and animated films, 38 movies. 38 movies, 3 animated series, and a whole bunch of side stuff. Gamera has had, I want to say, 11 films. 11 or 12 films, and then 1 animated series. So unfortunately, and one of the movies was nothing but a clip show. Like, it was an absolute, well, a lot of the older Gamera films are essentially clip shows with a little bit of new footage thrown in. But Gamera Super Monster is an absolute clip show. Like, it adds nothing except for some very interesting superhero women and an actual Star Destroyer. And I am not kidding. They have him fly into space and fight a model of a slightly adjusted Star Destroyer ship, which he very briefly fights. Not all of the Gamera films have been quite up to snuff, but I do love the big old turtle. I mean, I'm obviously I love turtles. That's not in question, but Gamera just hasn't been given the same fair shake. It's the Imperial Star Destroyer from Temu. Yes, absolutely from Temu. And the best part is somehow it's still got toys made of it. I think Cast made it. Good old Cast toy company. Shockingly. But anyway, what this is just, yeah, a bunch of skin flaking off in the water here. Because, again, you need those details, and you need the realism of what it would look like if you're just in water getting just completely blasted from... Obviously, it's coming the direction that he's looking, so it's sending off all these little particles into the water behind him. There's always a lot of factors you have to bear in mind when you're constructing a scene like this, because, yeah, not only is the skin going to be flaking off and flying off behind him, but the rolling... essentially the rolling waves back here behind him, the water that's being pushed and rolling away. When we get to that point in the coloring process, there'll be a lot of bubbles just floating through over top him and coming out of his mouth and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of layers to this process, and that's why art takes time. You can streamline it, and you can always decide how much or how little effort. Yeah. Yes, as it should. It should definitely look like these sort of like, oh, poopy. But you have to decide for yourself how much or how little effort you want to put into the overall image, because yeah, somebody else can make a good picture in half the time that I'm dedicating to this and make it maybe a little more cartoony, or they'll just choose not to stress certain details that I'm probably over worrying about here. But I like one of my favorite artists, and I think I think Shively will know him. Certainly if you look him up, Google search him. But one of my all-time favorite artists is a guy by the name of Arthur Adams. And he's done a lot of work for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse Comics. A lot of Godzilla comics back in the day, which is how I kind of first discovered him. He's done Star Wars and a bunch of his own original projects as well, with his own original characters. But what I always loved about his artwork was the sheer crazy attention to cross-hatching. And I'll give you an example here. Cross-hatching is when you essentially just make a bunch of little lines like this, and then you go the other direction and make it a little thicker, and then maybe you can go do another pass, make it a little thicker, and you're just kind of creating shade, and you're creating a little bit of depth by doing the crosshatch. There's tools that you can use for cross-hatching, and I have used them sometimes depending on what I want to do in a comic. But overall, I actually just really like creating the crosshatch myself, because it's a little bit, when you're doing it yourself, you have more control over it, and it's satisfying. I like crosshatch, but he was also just kind of insane in his detail and the amount of little bits of shading and just the excess lines that he would kind of put within an image. So I took a lot of inspiration from that growing up, and it became a regular part. This is a little too, excuse me a second, this is a little too chipper for what I was kind of wanting for the music here. There we go. Something a little bit more adventurous. I actually downloaded a royalty-free set of music that it is labeled as like some D&D adventure songs or something like that. Yeah, I like cross-hatching. I like sort of creating the bit-by-bit layers of shading and depth here. Really amazing work by... Thank you so much, Radsall. I appreciate that very much. This is me attempting in my little way to just remind people, be kind to your artists, because your artists put a lot of love and genuine passion and time sometimes into stuff that isn't always thought about or given that much consideration. But we love what we do, and we love trying our best. And I am going to call it good on the pencil pass, but we will be thickening up some lines here and adding up some stuff for some deeper areas, like some deeper lines. So I might actually switch over. Actually, let me look at the pencil tool a little bit. I'm working in Clip Studio right now, and it's not actually the program I am the most familiar with. I am still a journeyman in Clip Studio, because the program I used most for years was a program called Manga Studio. And that program has now become very outdated. It doesn't work as well with... I really love what you do. The pencil work is really amazing and clean. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I will never consider myself anything more than an amateur, but I am a passionate amateur, and I love doing it. So, thank you so very much. Even if you're just stopping by, I thank you so much for spurring me on and encouraging the process, because sometimes that's all we need, man. We just need somebody to just come and be like, keep going! Like, yes, thank you! That is what I shall do. one of these happy years, I will hopefully be doing it with a 3D model, because even though I did design this little representation of myself in the corner, I would also like to be a 3D boy someday. I would like to be a real boy. I'd like to look and move in 3 dimensions and move my head around more. So hopefully that'll happen someday. But yeah, I think that's about it for the pencil pass. So let me get that. I'm an amateur myself. We have to trust the process, and you do an amazing job. Oh, thank you. Cute character. Thank you. Mrs. Stegman says so as well. I don't understand it either. So, yeah. But I'm not as familiar with Clip Studio tools as I am the old Manga Studio tools. So this is the most work I have ever done with the pencil tool, and I'm probably wearing the frick out of my nib by doing it, but it is that's part of the process with any tool in art, is just kind of learning the strengths and weaknesses of your tools to what you intend to do with the final piece. Maybe I can help. What do you need? I'm not an expert, but I use Clip as well. Oh, well, I mean, I'm always happy to just hear recommendations for what some of your favorite tools are, because I'm sure that there's either better ways to go about doing stuff, or just maybe there's a tool I don't know about that's really handy and really cool to use. I just don't know. Like, I've used it so little at this point because Clip Studio, I used to work primarily on a laptop, and that laptop finally died, but Clip Studio would not work on that laptop because it was too old. So that's why I was still predominantly using Manga Studio. So when I finally upgraded my computer here to my new setup, I was finally able to get rolling with Clip, and we just got going here, actually really getting into the swing of things using Clip Studio. But I am an absolute noob to it. Like, I know how to make my layers and color stuff and do all that wonderful business, but just in general, I am more than happy to hear any suggestions for things that people like, techniques that they think are good, whatever little helpful processes that you have. I am all ears. I will not turn you away for throwing out some friendly advice. Moment, I'm just kind of working with what I remember best from the old program, but it probably means that I'm spending more time on any given thing than I necessarily need to, but the journey is part of the process. Happily still taking that journey, and I always will. Whoops, that did not look right. There we go. A little bit more down the way. Recently, and was cute to use, was the filter on top, basically with a little thing. You can put some nice filter along with a clipping mask on the full layer. Okay, that's interesting. I can't visualize that in my head exactly, but Mrs. Stegman is also very skilled with Clip Studio, so I'm sure she would probably be very willing and able to show me how to do that. So no, yeah, I will see what that manifests. So thank you very much for the suggestion. So at the moment, I'm gonna probably ship off at about 9 o'clock to get us to the usual 2-hour mark, but I'm just gonna thicken up some of these scales and some of the outlining. And next stream, I will either do the coloring on this bad boy, or we will start up some gaming. I'm not entirely sure which. It'll depend on how I feel, because, as I mentioned, the health has been kind of up and down lately with how my neck has felt. Some days it's better than others, and this week has been kind of a bear. I wasn't even sure I wanted to do any streaming this week, because it's just those knots, man. They start to just really ruin your day. But thankfully it kind of got under control. The ibuprofen helps a little bit, and we're getting there. So our boy can at least finally... Look, you're a pain in my neck, but not actually a pain in my neck. So it's okay. I'll have to go to bed, but I really want to stop by and leave some nice comments. Your helps get better, and please don't force yourself too much. No, thank you so much for stopping by and for the good words. It's infinitely appreciated. This is basically exactly what this is meant for, is just to chew the fat, try to be as positive as possible, and just enjoy the art in whatever silly form I decide to do it. So this is only my third stream, but thank you so much for being a part of it. I appreciate you for it, and I am going to try to keep it up as a regular endeavor. But yeah, next stream we will either color up, that doesn't sound right. Oh. We will either color this guy, or I'll finally kick off with something in the gaming sphere. Good night, Shively. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. But, yeah, just trying to keep it up, trying to stay regular at the streaming, and just get some good work done. Well, thank you so much, Rad Soul. You have a good night. Thank you for stopping in. So, let me see. Yeah, just... we're gonna get some little bits and pieces done on the outlines here, and you will be ready to paint by next stream. I am liking Clip a lot. It's gotten easier to use. It is definitely going to be the primary program I use when I do get around to that aforementioned very personal and very much that graphic novel that I want to get done so badly. It'll be the primary way by which that gets colored as well. Because no matter what, my first love is going to be pen to paper. I don't think that I will ever be able to go full digital with line stuff, just because I love the process on the page. But I'm not against it either. It's just, it still just feels more natural and more right to make the pages, to make them actual pages, to make them physical and on the page, and then scan it in and do the coloring and the adjustments that way. Because one nice thing about digital is the means to fix some of your issues. I will not deny that. Part of me has always felt like I must be cheating somehow to a degree, and I suppose, but it is still human effort. It is still real human effort. Going in and doing the fixes, even if they are digital. And I do a lot of fixes. Like, I'm Beethovening that crap. I'm going over it again and again sometimes, just trying to make it as perfect as possible. One of my best friends is also a writer, and he is a much better writer than I. But I made the comparison once between us that when it comes to our work, I feel like he was more of a Beethoven and I was more of a Mozart. And what I mean by that is Beethoven produced less, but he agonized painstakingly over each and every thing he did and corrected it and fixed it and improved on it and made it, made his stuff masterpieces that way, while I was more of the Mozart, who I didn't agonize over stuff as much, but I did produce more because I knew in my mind how I wanted things to look and how I wanted them to be. So that didn't always serve me the best. I'd look back on things sometimes and be like, I'm not as satisfied with this. I feel like I need to start from scratch, which I have done. And it's the same with that graphic novel I'm talking about. I worked on a draft and got a long way, and then I abandoned it because I was not happy with it, and I said, okay, this is for the future. This will have to get done again at a later date when I feel ready to actually deliver upon it the way that I really, really want. And that's just the reality of it. But that's why I always joked with him that I'm the Mozart, he's the Beethoven, because I just produce and produce and produce, and he made sure it was proper before it went out the gate. But yeah, let me pull back here a little bit and see if we're good. I think we're good, at least as good as I want it to be. I'll maybe add some more. No, wait, go back to the pencil. Going back to the pencil for a sec, adding some more. Adding a little bit more of the wave stuff. I just like it that way. Like I said, we're tweaking. Not like that tweaking. We're tweaking the work. I'm not sitting in my chair tweaking. That would go against TOS. just to clarify. Yeah. Well, I think that will do for the evening. Oh, wait. Zoom in. Enhance. Add a little bit more to bottom here. Anyway. Yeah. We've got ourselves line art. And that is the absolute bare necessity before we can get to the coloring. Unless, of course, I just made it a painting, which I am nowhere near confident enough right now with Clip to just start as a lineless painting. I would like to get better with painting. I would like to just start more in the Bob Ross department, just make a big black blob and then turn it into something that looks good. But I am not there yet, and will not be for many moons. So, well, thank you, Sonic. I appreciate your moral support. Yeah, this is not a version of our favorite boy that I am used to drawing, so I am glad that he at least bears a semblance to the version of the character he is supposed to be. So let me save before I completely forget and shut my computer down. But yeah, I think we got it. And if I find something else that I feel needs some adjustment, I will deal with that next time. But now, next one of these upcoming streams, we will get the coloring going, and then I will actually turn it into the trading card, quote unquote. Fit it into the template that I made for what I want the cards to look like and whatever. But yeah, that's our boy. And I'm just to be clear, not every single stream is going to be Godzilla art. I do want to broaden into other things. I want to draw. I actually thought if I had time tonight, I would doodle up. I got a few minutes, so let me actually just pop up a window here real quick. Holy crap, I can't. I'm having a little bit of trouble. There we go. If I had time, I was actually hoping to do a nice little proper sketch of one of my main characters from the graphic novel. One of the main two title characters. But, not quite there, but I can at least kind of show you how I start. She is not human. She's, I guess you'd just say some manner of alien species, but with animal-like traits. But one of these streams, I'm going to do a proper illustration of her and some of the other characters from it, because I do want to share those. I want to enjoy the process of just doing other characters and other stuff, like Ninja Turtles as well, or just other fandom stuff that I love. You know, you gotta have a little variety. But do a proper version of this character sometime. Her name is Nibby. She's one of two central protagonists in the story that I want to get done. Again, it's going to take years, and that's okay. If it's worth doing, it'll take time. But it's very near and dear to my heart, and I love her, and I love the other characters. I want to get her story done someday. And she is very, very cockeyed, kind of. Well, not cockeyed, but eyes are not aligned. That's why it's a good idea sometimes, a lot of times, when you're doing stuff like this. Get your T-zone down. Get the whole, get the outline ready to go. Otherwise you can goof. But obviously I wasn't doing it serious. It was just a little sketch. That's my excuse. Anyway, I'm sticking to it. But, no. I'm happy with this boy. He looking like a boy. He looking like our main boy. So, again, thank you everybody for being kind and hopping in. And please always remember, never forget why I do this. The foremost reason why I do this. It really is quite a thrill to try and make people laugh. Because no matter what your heartache might have been, while you're laughing for a few seconds, you forgot about it. You're having fun. I personally believe that we were all put here for a purpose, to build and not to destroy, and if someday you're not feeling well and you remember some silly little thing I've said or done and it brings a smile to your face or a chuckle to your heart, then my purpose as your clown has been fulfilled. And if I can also inspire somebody else to just be like, you know what, if this doofus can spend a couple of hours making some artwork on stream, I certainly have no excuse not to as well. So please, by all means, follow through on your own creative endeavors, because the world will be better for it. So, yeah. But anyway, blessings to all. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and we will catch you on the next stream. Bye-bye.